Over the past 5 or so years, it's become obvious to me and so many others that Marvel Legends is in need of a reboot, and it has nothing to do with the figures themselves. Okay, it does have something to do with the figures themselves, but there are 3 other reasons that you might not have thought of, and the deadline is 2028. I'm Glen, and this is Super Articulated. I really wanted to build up to this video, but then I looked at the calendar and I remembered that it can take up to 18 months for an action figure to go from concept to final in-hand product. Hasbro needed to start this like a month ago, so I'm a little late. But let's back up a little bit. You know, despite all the criticism that I levy at it, I love Marvel Legends. I never want to see it canceled again. I remember 2010. I remember how BAFs disappeared for years. I remember how the line was watered down to essentially 2-pack exclusives at Toys R Us. Until the return of Marvel Legends, and even then it was on shaky ground. It was only until really the Infinite series that it made its full comeback when it combined MCU and comic book figures together. But this toy line that was so big in the late 2010s has lost a lot of its market share. It has stagnated. We're still in a place where a lot of these figures go to clearance, go to your local Ollie's or Ross, priced at a fraction of what the regular MSRP is. Build-A-Figure waves, the core of the Marvel Legends line, have all but disappeared, especially from retail. A-list characters, the one type of figure that can hook a casual consumer and turn them into a collector, are locked behind expensive 2-packs. So many things are going to happen in the next few years that Hasbro needs to adapt to. Something needs to change. But you know what? Let's add some structure to this. Let's go over the 3 reasons why I think Marvel Legends needs a reboot. Reason number 1. The direct competition is going to be making a better product. Now, as of the recording of this video, Mattel has not announced their DC collector line, but if Masters of the Universe Chronicles is any indication, that DC line is gonna kick ass. And then on a much smaller scale, there's Jada Toys with their Invincible TV license. They're going to be putting out 6-inch superhero figures that look fantastic. God, that San Diego Comic-Con exclusive bloodied Invincible that Unparalleled Universe looked at, that looks like they can rival import figures for what is probably going to be the same MSRP as Legends. And as an adult collector with disposable income but still on a tight budget, those companies are making it so easy for me not to buy Marvel Legends. And you might be able to tell, but I'm trying to make room for that Mattel DC collector line. I'm trying to make room for that Jada Toys Invincible line. Those lines have their own problems, but Marvel Legends in comparison is still half a decade behind. The articulation that we're seeing on these figures are the equivalent to what Mattel's WWE Elite line, whatever the middle one is, that is cheaper, certainly, than Marvel Legends. I mean, Disney, if you're listening to this, are you okay with Marvel Legends becoming second fiddle to Mattel's DC Universe, whatever they call it, or Jada's Invincible line? No, you are Disney, you need to be the best. But the thing is, their direct competition isn't actually Mattel, or Jada, or McFarlane, or Jakks Pacific, or any of those guys. It's everything else that takes time and money away from people. It's kids with video games, Roblox and Fortnite. It's the growing economic hardship for adults. And speaking of video games, that leads us right into our second reason. So reason number 2, the market of video games is changing, not for the better. And that's potentially good news for Hasbro. Video games are in trouble. AI is taking all of the memory and computing power to the point where the next generation of consoles, if they even ever come out, are going to be over $1,000. And that is going to completely price out so many people. PlayStation had the swell idea of completely discontinuing physical-based games by 2028. And with no competition between digital and physical stores, prices are gonna go up like crazy. I'm gonna be priced out. Children are definitely going to be priced out. They're going to turn to other forms of entertainment, and whether that's movies or TV or toys, physical, actual toys, and Hasbro needs to be there with a good product when they do. If they do. But then that gets into the third reason. Last year, Kevin Feige was going around doing a bunch of interviews, basically confirming that the MCU was going to reboot after Avengers Secret Wars. That means there's going to be a new MCU in some capacity in 2028. And all those kids that are going to be jumping ship from video games might come to the MCU. They might be bringing in a new audience that are going to become familiar with these characters, and when they can't afford these consoles and video games anymore, they're going to spend their money on toys, on merchandise, action figures. At the same time, it has been 20 years since that original Iron Man film came out when I was 12. There are going to be a lot of people that look like me and older who are going to jump ship, who have only really been sticking around for the past 10 years because of how good that Infinity Saga was. The last 7 or 8 years, I almost said 6, 7, have not been great. And you know, I think that's going to be reflected in the box office of these new Avengers films. This reboot is going to become a perfect jumping on point for a new, younger generation, and a perfect jumping off point for people who look like me. So for that portion of the audience that used to be collectors and used to buy those MCU figures, they're not going to stop collecting. They're going to turn to something else. They're going to turn to comic book figures. Now, whether they turn to Mattel or Jada or Hasbro is in part, at least, going to depend on the quality of those figures. Marvel Legends needs to live up to that expectation. They need a reboot. And for the fourth reason, the bonus reason that doesn't really have anything to do with the figures themselves, it doesn't have a ticking time bomb attached to it, but at home 3D printing is getting better and it's getting cheaper. I mean, right now, I forget what it's called, but there's already a colored resin that has the flexibility of PVC plastic. And pretty soon these 3D printing enthusiasts are going to figure out joints, more than they already have, see zip tie guy, that are going to rival the engineering of traditional injected molded plastic figures. They're going to be able to print entire figures themselves, and Hasbro is going to need to compete against that. In fact, I'm going to be doing a video eventually about a almost completely 3D printed action figure that I think the quality is going to surprise people. And not to mention the growing competition of Chinese companies that are carving out a niche part of the Marvel and DC and Western superhero license. Obviously, we already have Bandai and Medicom and Figma. Is Storm Collectibles Chinese? Let's just say Storm Collectibles and Blokies and the amazing shit that InArt is doing, and what was formerly known as LPZZ, but I forget what their new name is. UPF? They are making amazing action figures, and those are just the companies that are willing to pony up for those licensing fees. Third-party figures are their own mess. Toys. God, when you're on a limited budget, do you want to be spending all of your budget on several kind of shittier characters? Or do you want to spend your budget on one crazy articulated and detailed action figure adult collectible? And the older I get, the more I'm drawn to the latter. So in summary, it really appears like the Marvel Legends brand doesn't have anywhere near the market share that it used to. It's stagnating. It needs a shot in the arm to be able to stand up to Mattel's DC collector line and Jada's Invincible series whenever they get around to releasing that. But at the same time, those companies are not really Hasbro's direct competition. It's anything else that takes time away from people. It's video games, it's movies, it's television. And by the time we get to 2028, video games are going to be a very different market, which is accidentally perfect timing because the MCU is going to be rebooted after Avengers Secret Wars. In 2028, we're going to have, in some capacity, a new version of the most iconic Marvel characters. Kids are going to be jumping on to this new version of the MCU, and they're going to be looking towards merchandise to support their love for it. At the same time, there's going to be a not insignificant amount of adults who are going to jump ship. And whether they turn to Hasbro or Mattel or Jada or McFarlane if they're still around, or if they turn to 3D printed figures or Chinese companies that make excellent products for, still a premium price, but slightly less. And for Hasbro, that is going to depend on the quality of their action figures. And right now, I don't think Marvel Legends makes the cut. Despite popular opinion, I don't believe anyone deserves to lose their jobs over this. In fact, the opposite. I think they're the only people who can do this job. And if that means letting up on the noose a little bit, giving them some slack to be able to create something interesting that is going to pull more people in instead of just resting on their laurels, Hasbro needs to do that. Something needs to change for Marvel Legends to become popular again, for that line to keep going up. I swear you can do it. I know you can do it because you've done it before. How they do that is an entirely different issue. So in the comments, I want to know what you think, if Hasbro even needs to reboot the Marvel Legends line, and if so, what do they need to change? But otherwise, let me know if you agreed with anything I said by leaving a like on this video. Whenever I subscribe to someone, it's because I can watch their videos in their entirety, from start to finish, without clicking away. That's when I know I've made a good subscription. So if you make it to the very end of this video, consider subscribing. One of the best ways to boost small creators' videos in the algorithm is to utilize the hype feature on mobile. I try and do it as much as I can for the small creators that I watch, so I encourage you to do it as well. And if you have any left over, maybe send some my way. All you have to do is swipe left, I think, on the comments on mobile. Thank you for watching. I'm Glenn, and this is Super Articulated. Also, I got a new cabinet, and I just wanted to show off one of the displays real quick. It's not quite done. Archangel is over there, but it's almost done.